Greetings and welcome back to the Galley of the Sun. Well, the episode is finally here. We've talked about it in many of our previous episodes. Today is Sausage Fest at the Galley of the Sun. So I have 71.6 pounds of Boston butt. We're going to turn that into kielbasa, beer brats, hatch green chili beer brats, Italian sausage, chorizo, and for the first time, this is something new to us, we're going to make our own hot dogs. Why would we do that? Well, don't you hate it when you get the hot dog and it's not as long as your bun, or it is as long as your bun, but it's this little pencil thick stick? No, we want big hot dogs, big pork hot dogs, and that's what we're going to make today. So, first step is to get the meat ground. Let's talk a little bit about sausage making. If you haven't done it before, you ought to do it. It is with you controlling the flavors and what goes into your sausage, the pride of serving that to other people, saying I made that, is fantastic. It's cheaper, but it does take some equipment. If you haven't made sausage before, you can do it relatively cheap. You can go out there and get a cheap meat grinder for under $100. That's definitely an essential component of this process. You can get an attachment for your stand mixer if you already have a stand mixer. That's relatively cheap too. But as we go on, I'll talk about both if you're just a casual sausage maker or if you really take it seriously like we do here, the equipment that you'll want to have. One of those things is big metal restaurant pans. So you can get these at a restaurant supply store. You can get them from Amazon. They're relatively cheap, but you're going to want to have some big containers because most of the work in the sausage making is all the preps that have to be done on the different steps. So really, whether you do 10 pounds or 70 pounds, it doesn't add significantly to the time, the amount that you're making. It's just everything that has to be done in the steps for setup and breakdown and cleaning. This step here, we're going to cut this pork butt down to strips that are the size of the throat on my meat grinder. So this will vary depending on what type of meat grinder you have. Since we've been doing this for years and years, we've got ourselves a pretty nice meat grinder from Cabela's, so I can cut these into pretty good size strips. If you have a smaller or less expensive meat grinder, it may have a thinner throat, and you'll want to cut these to fit the size of your throat. I've watched other people make sausage before. Some people do it in chunks. If you make it into long strips and feed it in there, the meat grinder will just take a hold of that and then drag it all the way through. I think it's much easier. Let's get this pork butt prepped. First thing I'm going to do is take this pork butt and cut it basically into pork steaks, sort of, and then we'll take those and take them down to the strips that we need. Now see this big fat cap on top? I know some people have the inclination of, oh my gosh, it's fat, I'm going to take that off. Remember, all of this is getting ground together. You need that fat for flavor for this. So do not trim anything off of this. Now that we got it basically cut down into steaks, now we're going to cut that into strips that'll fit into our meat grinder. At this point, it is better to err on the smaller side than the larger side because the smaller these pieces get, the more tedious it is to cut them. So we got our 25 pounds of pork butt all sliced up, ready to go to the grinder. Now that goes to the refrigerator. We're gonna get this cut up for the next thing, and then we'll set up the grinder. So the first one we're going to do is the kielbasa, and that's because of all the sausages that we're doing today, this is the only one that gets smoked. So if we do that first, it can be smoking as we're doing the other sausages. We have done marathon days before where we've been doing this for 10, 12 hours, finishing it up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We've learned a little bit, just a little bit. So this next step is to take those strips of meat, put them through the grinder on a coarse plate, so your plate with the biggest holes, and then get that all ground up before we move on to the next step. As I said before, if you're the casual sausage maker, you can do this with smaller equipment, but if you really enjoy this and you do this frequently, then you definitely want to get a good grinder. We got lucky, we got ours at Cabela's on a Black Friday sale, so the holidays are coming up. That's the perfect time to be looking for a good meat grinder if this is something you want to get into. We also make our own aged ground beef. You can see the video right here. We've used that before in that one. So makes all the difference in the world. This cut our time down by a factor of 4 or 5. One, that it has a bigger throat. 2, that it just has a stronger motor and it just gets through it quicker. So here we go. And you can see those strips there. I'm not having to use a plunger at all. It just grabs those long strips and pulls them right through. I've lost my meat! That Tammy, she is sneaky. You're sneaky. Mm-hmm.
Why make it harder?
Mm-hmm. It looks like I've been fired from the grinding business. If you're going to be doing any significant amount of this, it is definitely best to have someone there helping you. There's a lot of hand washing involved, which takes time and breaks. There's a lot of washing involved, especially when you get to the stuffing part. That definitely helps with a second person. So find a sausage friend. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the grinder's all washed up and the parts are in the freezer. As I said before, we're serious about our sausage making, so we got ourselves another sausage making toy. This is going to be the first time we used it. This here is a mixer to mix the seasoning in with the meat. Now, why would you want this? Well, 1, it makes the job easier. 2, I absolutely despise getting my hands cold, and you definitely do that when you're mixing all this together. And you don't want to stop and cut it short and not do a good job of it, so you just suffer through. No more suffering here at the Galley of the Sun. Picked this up, as you can see, at Cabela's. Found this on sale. Once again, the holidays are coming up, so these things should be going on clearance or sales. Got a nice pretty lid. Tammy is enjoying watching me struggle. That's okay, we're gonna win. All right, good and sturdy. Oh, those suction cups work well. That is probably the smoothest way you can do that. Oh, that's a big crank.
That's what she said.
Thank you. So to get the rest of this out of here, I'm going to have to disassemble it. We'll do that off camera, get this washed up, and you'll see the inaugural use at the Galley of the Sun of our brand new meat mixer. Time for the inaugural use of our meat mixer. So I took the 25 pounds of ground pork butt that we had there, Took 5 pounds out, so I got 20 left because that's the maximum capacity of this thing. So first I'm going to load this up until the paddles are halfway covered. Okay, we're about there. It looks like I have I've used about 3/4 of my 20 pounds to get to this point. So I'm going to put all the seasoning in here. So I'm using AJ Legs Kielbasa seasoning, and it takes 11 ounces to do 25 pounds. So since I'm doing 20 right now, I have 8.8 ounces here. Dump that in, sprinkle it over. And then you need 1 ounce of water for each pound of meat. So I have 20 ounces of water here. I'm going to start pour that in. There's a slot here on the plastic cover. Now we start mixing, and then once we have a little bit mixed up, we're going to go ahead and put the rest of the meat in. Okay, the mixing has taken care of those air pockets. It's worked itself down a little bit. Now I can add the rest of the meat. Lid back on. Now we finish up the mixing. There's 20 pounds of meat in there. The cranking is pretty easy, and my hands aren't freezing. This was a good purchase for me. Okay, that looks well mixed. Now on to the next step. All right, so next step is to put the meat that is now seasoned back through the grinder on a finer plate. A lesson learned, grinder we got from Cabela's here, as I said before, fantastic, love it. However, the plunger that came with it is hollow, so it'll store your funnels for casing and your blades and your plates. So as for use as a plunger, it sort of sucks. So if you are going to get one of these, then buy separately a good plunger. This will help. Didn't need it before when we were feeding those long strips of meat in there, but we definitely need it now when we're doing the ground stuff. Okay, now on to the next step. It is time to case these sausages. Let's talk a little bit about casing first. You have 2 choices here. You have natural, which is made of hog's intestine, or you have synthetic, which is made of synthetic. But to me, the taste of and the texture that you get with the natural casing is much better. It seems to crisp up better. The synthetic to me has a little bit of a papery feel to me, and I don't like that. So we're going with that. The casing comes packed in salt. So to prep it, you have to rinse all that salt off, let it soak for a while, 45 minutes for this brand that we bought, and then you're going to empty that water, put fresh water back in, let it go another 30 minutes. Something that we found that helps us a lot is we pre-thread as much of it as we can ahead of time on some straws, just like this. That makes it very easy to transfer from the straw onto the tube that's on the sausage stuffer. Sausage stuffer? Let's talk about that. So this here is our sausage stuffer. Now, you can stuff sausages with your meat grinder. You'll put the tube on in place of the perforated plate and it will work. However, because you're stuffing the sausage in there again, you get an inconsistent flow, because as it's getting sucked down there and then you lift your plunger to go get the next one, you don't have flow for a second until you push the plunger down again. With this sausage stuffer, you're going to see that one of us is going to be cranking this at a very nice slow pace as the other one is just drawing those sausages out. Once they get to the right length, twisting them off and moving along. So where the mixer is a luxury if you're serious about sausage making, this is a necessity. Now we're going to put the meat into, we're going to put the meat into this bucket. Okay, so on the side of this, there's a high-speed crank and a low-speed crank. So I'm going to use the high-speed crank until I feel it engage the meat. Okay, and the meat's engaged. Now I'm going to go to the low-speed crank so we don't go too fast and don't burst any of our casings or have any of those issues. Going real slow until we see the meat at the end of the tube. Okay. And simply when you reach your desired length, just pinch it, twist it, and we keep it going. They do have a luxury model of this where it's run by an electric motor and you use a foot pedal to control that. If you're going to end up doing a lot of your sausage stuffing yourself, then that becomes a necessity vice a luxury. The operations that we're doing right now would probably be best with a third person, one person to scoop the meat in here and then have the dirty hand, another person to crank, and another person to handle the sausages as they come out.
When you have a rupture in the membrane, you squeeze it out and put it back in the pan to go again.
It's also good to have a bowl of water on hand to keep the casings moist. Now that we've hit about the halfway point, I've gone ahead and started the smoker at 210 degrees. Pork is always very good smoked with a fruit wood. So today I'm using apple wood pellets out there. As soon as we're done making these, we'll be ready to put them on the smoker. All right, there you go. That is what 25 pounds of homemade, uncooked brat looks like to you. Ended up with about 68 of them, so there's somewhere between 7 and 8 ounces each on average. Some are longer than others. It depended on when the casing ran out or if we had a rupture or not, but they're pretty uniform size. Now the next step is to get them out on the smoker. I have my smoker set to 210 degrees. I need to take these to 165 degrees. So I want to cook them as slow as possible so they have a chance to absorb the most smoke flavor. I've got my meter probes ready. I'm going to stick those in there in each of the 4 corners, put as many as I can on the top shelf of the smoker, and get these a smoking. Based on how many I have here and the size of my smoker, it's probably going to take me 2 or 3 batches to get through this. So we have the bratwursts ground and mixed up. I've taken 10 pounds of it and I've mixed in about 10 ounces of diced fire roasted hatch green chilies. So we're going to have hatch green chili beer brats. The other half I'm going to make into cheddar brats, and I'm going to use just not any kind of cheddar. I'm going to use this Cougar gold cheddar. This stuff is absolutely amazing. It's made by the students of Washington State University. I'm not sure if it's from the milk of actual students, but it is made by those students. It is sharp. It is delicious. You can get it from their Washington State University store online. Give it a try. It comes to you cold shipped. So when you order it, order a lot. Cheaper shipping. But there are very few cheeses that are better than this. So I got 10 pounds of ground pork here. I'm going to use about 10 ounces of this. This is a 30-ounce cylinder here, so we're going to cut that about a third of it out. Yep, close enough for government work. We're going to get that shredded. Oh, damn, a piece broke off. Delicious. Hey, a big shout out to Tammy today. This is the first video that she's been in knowingly going into it. So, hey, down in the comments, tell us if you'd like to see more Tammy. I think we would. Yeah, put it down there. If you like what you're seeing here, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this episode, hit the like button. Really helps us out. All right, so we got all that ground up. All of that is going to go in. Remember, you need to be 10% smarter than the object you're trying to operate. We just barely achieved that here. All right, we're going to get all that mixed in, get it nice homogeneous, and then it's stuffing time again. Okay, for the first time ever, 3 of us are going to be working together. Char's going to be on the crank, Tammy's the sausage twister, and I'm the dirty hands person. So, now we're working on the hatch green chili brats. So we ended up with about 33 of the hatch green chili brats from the 10 pounds. Now we're working on the cheddar brats. Okay, now we're on to the Italian sausage. So what I have already in the mixer is 10 pounds of coarse ground pork butt. You've seen us grind that before, so I spared you that. Here's where it gets a little bit different. So we aren't going to case this because what we use Italian sausage for mostly at the Galley of the Sun is for pizzas. So we like just ground Italian sausage that we can sprinkle on the pizzas. Now, we don't like real spicy stuff here at the Galley of the Sun, but we like a little bit of bite. So what we do is we take half sweet Italian sausage mix and half hot or spicy Italian sausage mix and mix those together. So that's what I have right here. Those seasonings go in. Now I have 10 pounds of pork here, so I'm going to use 10 ounces of water to help mix that. We also have a love for the taste of fennel seeds in our Italian sausage, so I'm going to add an additional 2 tablespoons of fennel seeds to my mix. And that's the beauty of making your own sausage. You can make it exactly to your tastes. I have had some sausage before that had cinnamon in it. It was a very interesting flavor. If you like that, you could add that right now. All right, 2 tablespoons of fennel in. Now we give it a mix. All right, I'm not seeing any dry spices or anything. Looks like it's homogeneous. What we're going to do with this is put it back through the grinder on a smaller plate, do a fine grind, and then just package it in 1 pound increments. Because that's about how much Italian sausage we put on a pizza, around 8 ounces or so. We typically make 2 pizzas. That's perfect for us. Do you have a bigger family? Do you make more pizzas? We'll put them in 2 pound bags or 1.5, whatever. Again, the beauty of making your own sausage. All right, as we enter hour 11 of Sausage Fest, now we're finally to the hot dog, something that we've never made before. So what I have here is 6 pounds of ground pork butt and 4 pounds of chuck roast. It isn't exactly what the recipe says on the box, but it's my goddamn hot dogs. So I'm gonna make them like I want to. In goes the 10 pounds of pork and beef mixture. Please go well. This is hour 11. Okay, it's going well. Fantastic. Our seasoning goes in. And then 5 ounces of ice cold water. And the high quality H2O. Now at this point we find the lid and then we mix. All right, the hot dogs did not come with a natural casing like what we used on the brats and the kielbasa. It came with a collagen casing. So it's going to be our first experience using that. And that's what's coming up next. All right, first time we're making hot dogs, first time with collagen filling. We got our hot dog mixture, put it through the second grind off camera. So now we're ready to stuff these puppies. Now, as I've told the girls, it's not worth making your own hot dogs unless you make them longer than the damn buns. So that's what we're shooting for. Here we go. It's because the beef is mixed in, but this is definitely the stickiest mixture we've had. All right, it's stuffed. You go, Power Rangers. Thinking 8 per package, just like buns.
Oh my God, we're not going to have to do a hot dog.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
Well, that's unless you get the brioche. Then those are 6.
Okay, let's do 6 then, because those brioche buns are the best, in my humble opinion. We need to get Ben over here to be a weenie winder. Is this a 4-person job?